News alert: incumbent Congressman Dan Goldman, who was just banned from a New York City coffee shop because of his support for Israel. He has now lost his primary to a radical socialist backed by Mamdani. It appears that, a pretty scary transformation is now fully underway in the Democratic Party, especially in a blue state like New York. Now, meanwhile, President Trump spoke at a Mack truck facility in Pennsylvania where he touted his economic success and rallied with Republican candidates ahead of the midterms, while also taking a jab at far-left radical Maine Senate candidate, our friend Graham Plattner, and, of course, his Nazi tattoo. Take a look.
How about the guy in Maine? He's got the Nazi stickers. He's got the whole deal, and they're trying to say so for 8 years, 10 years, they said Trump is a Nazi. Now they can't say that anymore because they have a guy with a tattoo on his chest.
And also another Mamdani-backed candidate, Claire Valdez, just won the Democratic nomination in New York's 7th congressional district. Wow. Here with reaction, he is the Deputy White House Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller. All right, New York is one thing. This is a big night for Mamdani, but it's also like a cancer spreading, across the country. You got Tallarico, you got El Sayed, you got Graham Plattner, and you have no mainstream Democrat but the one we just had on, John Fetterman, right, that is willing to stand up to them. What are we learning about what's happening to the Democratic Party, Stephen Miller?
Well, this is an issue, Sean, you and I have discussed on your airwaves many times, and tonight brings really terrifying evidence of just, as you said, how far this cancer has spread and is spreading across and throughout the Democrat Party. The candidate who won that race in New York tonight campaigned, as Senator Fetterman said, on abolishing ICE, abolishing borders, abolishing jails. So effectively, this candidate is saying that every single American citizen should live at the mercy of the most violent criminals, terrorists, and thugs on the face of planet Earth. Just our whole country there for the taking, there for the pillaging. No protection for you or your family. And we've seen in every single race where there is an open Democrat primary, the radical left base of the Democrat Party is electing the most socialist, the most communist, the most lunatic candidates, the most fringe candidates that possibly exist. Every one of them, against cops, against ICE, against Border Patrol, against borders, against jails, for every crazy trans idea, against every single tenet of traditional American values, principles, religion, God, all of it. I mean, you saw this quote from Tallarico today where he says he hates Christianity. These are the candidates that they are running, Sean. So President Trump, in a very real and very literal sense, is the man, is the leader standing in the gap, in the breach, protecting this nation from this tyrannical wave of left-wing insanity.
How do we ever reconcile the ones that want Marxism, socialism, defund, dismantle, open borders, sanctuary cities and states? How do we ever reconcile these two very different ideologies? I don't see how.
No, I mean, fundamentally, Sean, look, we used to have a country, you could pick what time period, maybe say the 1980s with Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. We used to have a country where you had a center-left Democrat Party, really a center, I would say a center to center-left with many members who were actually center-right. These were called Reagan Democrats or Blue Dog Democrats. So that was the spectrum the Democrat Party lived in, from center-left to center-right. Then you had a Republican Party, right, a conservative party. And over time, the Democrat Party has abandoned all of that, and they have instead adopted this radical, revolutionary, and in many cases violent ideology that wants to tear America down and destroy everything that we know and love from top to bottom, right? Living in a state of total anarchy, without police, without law enforcement, where criminals can rape and maim and murder with impunity, where your kids are taught from the age of 2 to hate America, to hate their God, to hate their parents, to hate their family, to even hate their own gender. That's their agenda. And no, you cannot
All right,
have
so-
a middle ground with that. Ultimately, what President Trump is doing and what he is leading is an America First movement that says we need Democrats to come vote for us to leave that insanity, because ultimately that's just a death knell for America.
I don't see Plattner winning. I don't see El Sayed winning. I don't see six-gender Tellerico winning. Well, I just don't. Okay, so you have New York City, which is like an island unto itself. Very different. New York, a different state. How does this play out nationally? In my mind, these are uncharted waters heading into a very important midterm election, and no mainstream Democrat but for John Fetterman will call out the radicalism within their own party. So if the party's going to put their seal of approval on it or shut their mouths because they're afraid of the people that are the real power brokers, my question is, how does that end? How do we interpret what the midterm will look like going into this?
Yes, well, ultimately, that's the communication challenge that we all have together, Sean, which is to explain to the American people that Democrats you grew up with, the Democrats that your mom and dad grew up with, the Democrats that your grandma and grandpa grew up with, do not exist anymore at all, not at any level of government. A vote for any Democrat anywhere for any office is empowering a party that wants to strip this country to the bone, to take away our security, our defense, our way of life. You know, just tonight, Sean, I saw a Democrat member of Congress online defending the Antifa terrorists in Texas who were just jailed for shooting an ICE officer. They shot an ICE officer. They were charged with terrorism, and a Democrat congresswoman was defending the Antifa terrorists.
Mamdani is endorsing candidates that don't want the most violent people put in jail ever.
No, I mean, and look,
they're
by the
winning
way,
tonight.
By the way, but they're all like this. Look at Roy Cooper in North Carolina. He released murderers and killers and rapists. So this is a choice about defending you and your family. A vote for Republicans and Trump is literally a vote to protect the lives of the people you love most in this whole world, Sean.